welcome to AboutFACE Theatre presents 5 Questions With, and today's guest, Lisa Damour. Lisa is a playwright whose work has been seen at theatres such as Manhattan Theatre Club on Broadway, Playwrights Horizons, Steppenwolf, Club Thumb, the Wilma, Woolly Mammoth, and the National in London. Her plays include Detroit, which won an OBIE-Award and was a finalist for both the Pulitzer and the Susan Smith Blackburn Prize, and Airline Highway, which was nominated for 4 Tonys. Lisa is also an interdisciplinary artist and one half of the OBIE-Award winning performance duo PearlDamour, who are known for large-scale performances, often site-specific, that mix installation and theatre. Lisa's accolades include an Alpert Award for the Arts, the Steinberg Prize for Playwriting, and a Doris Duke's Performing Artist Award. Lisa, you're very welcome.
Hi, so great to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that juicy introduction. I appreciate it.
It's all true, Lisa. It's all true.
So Lisa, can you tell us what play or experience first got you into theater?
Yes, it's such a great question. So I spent a lot of my childhood going camping with my family in the Great Smoky Mountains in Cherokee, North Carolina, which is the home of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Nation. Ooh. And when I was younger, and to this day, they have an outdoor drama called Unto These Hills that they perform in this outdoor amphitheater that is literally carved into the side of a mountain. So you're outside and the mountain is the backdrop. And the play tells the story of the Cherokee who were living there at the time and Western colonizers led by Andrew Jackson coming in to basically force them onto what's called the Trail of Tears, in which they had to kind of march through, the winter to be resettled, forced to resettle in Oklahoma. And, me and my brothers were just completely enwrapped, with this story, with the presentation, with like actors coming out of the woods and onto stage. And I just know that this really directly sowed the seeds for my site-specific work, because I do a lot of work outside and I do a lot of work that has spectacle in it. And especially in the last 10 years of my career, I've done a lot of work that kind of calls into question American history. So I can really draw a line from the work I'm doing now right back to those early childhood experiences.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's an amazing picture. I just like that.
Yeah, you can Google it. They just started the play up again after COVID. It's been through several incarnations since I was a child, but it's a big part of the kind of tourist economy and cultural economy of Cherokee right now. So
fantastic. It's amazing. Okay, Lisa. So I'm sure you have many, many plays that you love, but can you tell us one great play that you love and why?
Yes, this was tough. And I feel like I need to just shout out to Susan Laurie Parks and Mac Wellman and Tennessee Williams, because they are on my mind when I answer the question. But I want to talk about Far Away by Carol Churchill, which is, the story of this, it starts off the character as a young girl who is kind of experiencing the seeds of a fascist regime. And we see this girl in 2 other time periods when she is an adult and kind of inadvertently working within a fascist regime. And then later in time when the world seems to be going crazy. Everyone is rebelling against one another. And the play has such an efficient approach to storytelling. It really begins with this chilling, terse approach to language and mystery. And by the end of the play, language has exploded as the world has exploded. And it's just amazing to see the range of the play in a very short number of pages. It's a very short play on paper. But there's a lot of different ways that you can produce it. And one of the other things that I love about this play is it really gives a ton of room to the collaborators who are producing it to really use all of their imagination to make it happen. So those of you who know the play, there's probably maybe 3 stage directions in the center of the play that describes this hat parade, where a group of humans are being led to their execution wearing these like fabulously designed hats, and the designers are competing to see basically who can make the best execution hat. So it's a like crazy set of contradictions to be staged. But it really needs the imagination of a costume designer, of a director, lighting, maybe even a choreographer, to kind of make that stage direction live in whatever length the team wants it to live in. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be half an hour, who knows? So I love that Carol Churchill can create this very specific structure. She really knows what she's writing about, but it allows the collaborators to dream into it. And I really consider her to be like a trickster playwright. So a playwright that lures you into thinking that you know where you're going, and then she turns the world upside down, and suddenly you're like faced with yourself and the real world you're living in. So I can't say enough about that play. I love teaching it, and I just think it's a really great one.
Yeah, fantastic. I love hearing you describe it. So can you tell us about a time in your theater life where something turned out differently than you expected?
Yes. I'm sure everyone that you interview says that it's hard to think of a time when it did turn out like you expected it to. But what came to mind is actually, it was a life-changing project for me. And it was a project with PearlDamour, my interdisciplinary theater company, in which we decided that we wanted to go visit small towns in America and make a play. Katie Pearl and I are both very city-oriented artists, New York, New Orleans. And, we thought, oh, we'll choose 5 towns of the same name. We'll go visit them a couple of times. We'll see who's there. We'll make a little play and bring it back like in the next year. And so we got a grant to start the research, and we started visiting these towns. And this was like 2 years before, it was like 2 years before Trump was elected, right? So the US was like simmering. And what we were met with was such complexity, a complex range of people, a complex range of problems. It was like seeing headlines that we'd only read about and generalized in our head, and seeing those like in action in these towns. And we realized very quickly that this was going to be a much longer process. And it turned into like a 5-year experience where we wound up going really deep with 3 of these towns, which were named Milton. So we picked 5 towns named Milton. And we did make a show about the 5 Miltons, and what was kind of idiosyncratic, and what connected them together. But we also really engaged with the communities in different creative projects that were designed to help them sometimes revitalize their small town, sometimes deal with an issue that was going on in their small town, like one town in Oregon that had a huge demographic shift in the last 5 or 6 years, in which it was now 50% Hispanic and 50% white, and trying to help them come together to talk about that. So it really turned out to be a deep community engagement experiment that changed my approach to theater making, changed my perception of small towns in America, and also really helped me make a lot of new friends, because I'm still connected with many of these people in these towns today. So that little naive idea turned out to be much bigger and more significant in my creative life.
Wow, oh, that's great.
Okay, so Lisa, you have already had this amazing career in the theater. So what is it that keeps you coming back to the theater? What moves you? What excites you about theater?
Yeah, when I think about that, I think about what brings me back as an audience member, and then also what brings me back as a creator, right? And like as an audience member, especially as I I come back this year to these first live performances after, as we are still in the midst of a pandemic. You just can't get enough of that sense of ritual healing and magic of being in that room with an audience, breathing together, even if we're masked, our heartbeats synchronizing and experiencing this one thing on a stage, but having so many individual reactions in a way that we can't really put into words. And, you know, I think that somatic experience, that physical experience of being in the room and trying to digest live theater, embody it myself, is really like, I can't get enough of that. And I think that goes really back. You know, I was raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is a place as a Catholic. So I was like raised in ritual, in a world where, you know, ancestors that I had never met felt as present as people who were alive. I feel like New Orleanians sometimes believe more in things they can't see than the things they can. So it feels very much a part of my DNA to be a part of that, that ritual that I believe really has a chance, the potential to heal. I don't think that, I don't expect theater to be didactic, but I think that it has a chance that theater can rattle people and send them out of the theater thinking about things that can change the world. So that's just quick. And then really quickly, as a creator, I mean, what brings me back is the people that I work with, you know, like it's just so many incredible artists, you know, across the world, you know, really, really engaging with their work as a labor of love. And I was raised as an artist on the streets of Austin, Texas, when I was in grad school in the late 90s. And many of those theater artists that I worked with then are still like dear friends and collaborators, including Skip Shirey, who is an amazing composer performer who I met back then, who is doing the music and composing for the next PearlDamour show, which goes into rehearsal in a month. So it's that like those long-term connections of people who share my values and excitement for the form is what keeps me coming back.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So, you know, as far as, because you've had a lot of different experiences within theater and from a lot of different angles. So is there any tool from theater that you have found really useful in the rest of your life?
Yes. The things that come to mind are the concept of yes and, that kind of improv theater concept of, if you're in an improv, you can't shut down the other actor, and that in order to be generative, you have to say yes. And I feel like that is something I've tried to use in my classroom experiences, in you know, conflicts with family, this work that I do, that has been something that's been super valuable to me. And I also think it's funny because this is something that even I can be resistant to, which is don't just talk about it, try it. And me and, you know, I've been collaborating with Katie Pearl, who's a director, for almost 25 years. So we've been through it all. And we often get to this point where I get very shut down and I'm like, no, but if we try this, this is going to happen. If we do this, this is going to happen. And I try to imagine sort of like all of the bad things that could happen. And Katie is like, Lisa, calm down. Let's just try it. Let's get these actors up here and try it. And inevitably, like, the fear goes away. And what happens on stage is nothing that I could have imagined on my own. So it's something about like just getting out of your head and getting out of the world and into the world and taking action, which has played out a lot in my volunteer work, community work, activist work, relationships, and something that I think I continue to learn and relearn every day.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Fantastic. Well, Lisa, this has been terrific. As a bonus question, can you tell us anything about what you're working on at the moment?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, we're back. Fingers crossed, going into rehearsal at American Repertory Theater on January 17th with the new PearlDamour show, Ocean Filibuster, which is a commission from ART and the Harvard Center for the Environment. And it's a solo music theater extravaganza where this one actor, amazing actor, Jen Kidwell, plays two roles. It's set in a future global Senate, and there's a character named Mr. Majority who wants to end the ocean as we know it because it has become too unruly, and shrink it down to manageable seas so that he can develop the land left behind. And he sings and speaks very passionately about his proposal. And the first person who comes to speak against the bill is the ocean. Who is standing up for itself, saying its piece, and also teaching the audience a lot about the interconnected systems of the ocean and human ocean interconnected systems. And so the script, we've been working on this on and off for several years, and I am still learning and revising the script like today. But it's a really amazing team of Skip Shirey, who's composing music, Tal Yarden, who's doing this expansive video design, and we'll be premiering the show and then touring it to different locations around the US and maybe other countries. And then the other thing I'm working on is more of a that's a kind of interdisciplinary extravaganza with a lot of environmental advocacy. We're working with a lot of environmental groups in the places that we're touring to kind of help people take action. But then I'm also working on this play called The Smoker, which is very simple on its surface. It's about a group of friends who smoke outside their apartment building in New York City. They're the Smokers Club. And it's a play about community. It's about craving. It's about harm reduction. This notion of when people are addicted to substances, how do you maybe let them keep using those substances, but reduce the harm those substances are causing? And maybe asking the question of like, how did the US get to a point where harm reduction might be our only option? How do you stay healthy in the United States of America? So that play is in a kind of early drafts, and I'll be continuing to write it over the next, who knows, maybe the rest of my life.
Sounds juicy though. I like it. Look forward to it. Well, Lisa, thank you so very much for joining us. This has been great.
Great. Yes. So nice to meet you. And I wish you well with all of your work.
Thanks, you too, you too. And thank you to the audience for joining us as well. If you enjoyed the interview, please like below, follow AboutFACE, and share, because we believe theater makes life better. See you next time on AboutFACE Theater presents 5 Questions With.